horror awaits you. Greetings, happy Friday today. What's up, Killick? What's up, Mighty Cat, Father Ash Keeper, NPC, Rachel Kiwi, White Buffalo, Comic Runner with a 75-month Skull Club membership. Thank you very much indeed. Lurkers, VOD viewers, etc., etc. Everyone, welcome. I want to play some beat-em-ups. I want to play one beat-em-up in particular, prompted by some recent off-stream incidental research. I mean, I want to play a lot of games. But the reason I was like, fuck it, gotta boot up the stream, is because I want to play Captain Commando. If you are in my Discord, you may have seen I posted a link to a YouTube video posted by, dare I say, fellow beat-em-up scientist, Germ, aka Germinator. You know what, let me just post a link to this video in chat, because I think it's extremely good. Let's not assume everyone's on my Discord. I'll post that link right there. This is the same fellow who posted an excellent video on Final Fight some time ago, doing kind of a sort of a 1cc commentary video, but it was more of a walkthrough breakdown of Final Fight from beginning to end, like just kind of going through the entire game, encounter by encounter, to kind of explain, I shouldn't say everything about the game, but explain everything kind of about the run, I guess. And this is kind of a similar video, but it's about Captain Commando. And my understanding is that these videos are kind of a documentation, I guess you could call it, of this person's sort of process of getting into beat-em-ups and learning them. And it's really cool. It's like the kind of stuff... It's funny because in this video in particular, it's like a combination of as I understand it, it's like an edit of a bunch of different, like his own sort of narration and video stuff, but also like Discord calls that he had with a few other people, explaining stuff about the game and asking things and like comparing Captain Commando to Cadillacs and Dinosaurs and Final Fight and some other Capcom arcade beat-em-ups in particular. And it ends up being like a super interesting, both like kind of a guide to like explain the run and explain the mechanics and explain Captain Commando, but from a kind of broader beat-em-up science game design analysis perspective, it was also really interesting just to hear explanations and comparisons between different games and things like that. And it was really funny because Cass, who is one of the people who were on this, who featured in this video, who I'm not really that familiar with, but they made a video previously about like using the Punisher to like get into beat 'em ups, and they like learned the Punisher and did the 1cc and whatever. And obviously I'm not new to beat 'em ups, but I essentially kind of did go on a bit of a similar journey where that was the game I used to kind of learn. It's like the first proper learning I feel like I've done, or at the very least the first arcade beat 'em up 1cc I've gotten. And truth be told, like, Punisher is an easy game. It doesn't really require that much learning, I think, all things considered. It's a game where you can skate by through most of the game with some pretty basic, like, fundamental skills. It doesn't have that many sort of gotcha moments. It's really only like 2 boss fights that I like took time to practice. I still want to play that game more. It's still fun, and there's still plenty to learn. I haven't, like, missed it. I didn't see it on the highest difficulty or anything like that, but it did make me want to learn more games. And the funny thing is, like, they discussed briefly in this Captain Commando video, this conversation about this previous, like, video that Cass had made talking about, like, getting into beat-em-ups by means of the Punisher. And they said very specifically that, like, they basically voiced the exact same frustration that I have, which is like, there's nothing out there. Like, there are no resources. There's nothing. Like, if you want to learn these games, if you want to get into this genre, if you want to understand what's cool about these games, if you want to get good at them, if you want to reach a level of understanding beyond dismissing them as brainless, button-mashing quarter munchers, it's like a weird thing where you kind of have to be on the inside already to know what to look for, and even then, there isn't much to find, at least not in, like, the English-speaking world. So they said that, like, well, fuck it then. I'll make this video, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically what they said was like, there's nothing out there, so I'll make this bad video, and then someone else can come along, get mad at my bad video, and make a good video. And I found that really funny and really relatable, because that's exactly how I feel about a lot of this stuff, where it's like, I'm so frustrated that there are so few, and that there's so little material and resources out there for understanding and learning beat-em-ups. And I feel like I'm not an authority. I'm not in any position to educate anyone else, I feel like, because I'm such a novice as far as like how to play them and like a lot of the technical stuff and everything. But I felt that same impulse of, well, if no one else is going to do it, you know, me doing a bad job surely is still additive. It's still going to put something out there, and it's still going to be better. It's still going to be a counterpoint, I suppose, to, if not specific material, at least like the general consensus, I guess we could call it, of like a dismissive attitude. But me being, if not lazy, at least easily distracted and you know, sidetracked by a million other things, I haven't really done anything, or at least not much. Like, I do these streams. I've written like an article or two on my blog, but I don't think... I stand by what I've written, but I haven't really gotten to anything that gets into... I guess the closest thing is like my thesis on game length and pacing. I wrote an article a couple of years ago about why short games are good, and why pacing is like the most important thing, and why I like shorter games better than longer games, which is very applicable to this kind of thing, and very central to criticism that I have against many modern beat-em-ups, among many other things. But it's not really, you know, whatever I've written about beat-em-ups, frankly, is a lot more superficial. At least not focused on the game design part so much, and it's not focused on the kind of stuff that requires or builds on the knowledge you gain through actual mastery of playing these games, which is the part that I feel like I'm missing, that I really want to get better at and learn more about. So I feel like a real kinship, and you know, to some degree, well, definitely an admiration, but to some degree, an envy of these people who are like, they're like a little further along their journey than I am in terms of saying, fuck it, I genuinely want to learn this, so let me learn this, let me do this, let me get that one CC in this game and whatever. And you know, as I've alluded to, that's I'm not as far along, but I'm on. I want to at least be on that journey, and my current sort of exploration of games has been pretty explicitly in pursuit of like the next game to actually try to learn properly in 1cc. And Captain Commando wasn't on my shortlist because I'd played that in the past and didn't really fall in love with it. Now, granted, that was just a completely casual, just touching it for the first time. But sometimes I play a game like that, as the experience I had with 64th Street a while back in Denjin Makai more recently, where I go like, man, this game feels so good, it's so fun, I want to learn this, I want to get better at it. That's not the feeling I had when I played Captain Commando, but watching this video, I really... like, I found it really helpful, obviously, because there's like a template, there's a guide to follow. I don't have to do everything by myself, and I don't even, in fact, have to Google or go on to Reddit or Discords or whatever to try to find that information. Like, there's a tremendous starting point. Like, there's a lot of stuff for me to use to try to learn the game without having to do it all by myself, which is like a big help, obviously. But more than that, I think just watching the game being played by someone who understands it and have them explain the mechanics as well as just like some things about the game I wasn't really familiar with, or like didn't know or remember. Specifically the fact that the game's very short. It's like a 25-30 minute run compared to Final Fight's maybe 45-ish. I think Punisher is also 40, 45. Probably, if I had to guess, the shortest of all the Capcom arcade beat-em-ups. Most of them are a bit longer. But also that it's like shorter. It's significantly shorter than Final Fight, but it has 9 stages instead of 6. All stages are really short, and they're really kind of broken down into very few encounters. There's like, the way they talk about it and describe it is that like it has no filler, which I found really interesting and exciting, as well as just generally learning more about certain mechanics and stuff. But I don't know, I'm just really excited to reassess the game with a higher base level of knowledge. What's up, Ryu? So Germ, who did the video, they got the 1cc with Baby because like it's the easiest character. But in the video, I don't think there's any footage using Ninja because he's like the worst character, I guess. But it wasn't like the video itself wasn't strictly only covering a single run. It was sort of going through the entire game, using kind of a combination of Baby, Mummy, and Captain. And they talk a bunch about like the difference between the characters. The thing, like, Baby is the strongest character, but basically kind of boils down to Baby and Mummy are good, and Captain and Ninja are bad, or at least worse. But there's one key difference between Baby and the other characters, and that is that the loop exploit on the final boss is much easier. So once you get there, like, even if the rest of the game isn't that much different with Mummy, like, you have a very sort of strict execution check at the very end of the run that you do not have with Baby, as I understand it. But yeah, like, I learned a lot, and I took a lot of notes. I actually started, before I watched this video a couple of days ago, I decided that I need to start taking notes, which, you know, it seems like a pretty basic idea as far as doing research goes, right? But I've been playing a lot of these games, and it's interesting to make observations, but I figured, you know, I really ought to take notes. So I started this Google Doc where I'm just kind of writing down observations, part of it as reference, as like a resource to use in my own kind of design work. Part of it to kind of just help remember things, but also without that specific of a plan, just having some kind of record and documentation that could potentially be used whenever I would want to or be able to do something in the future, whether it's, you know, writing articles or a book or a YouTube video series or whatever it might be. I don't know. But instead of having to, like, rely on doing research at that moment, instead of relying on foggy memories or hearsay, I can go back to my own personal notes, and mostly it's observations about like what's cool or good or bad about games. But I had the thought in the back of my mind that, like, well, if I'm learning games, I should put down my own notes as far as strategy and stuff goes too. And so what I ended up doing was, I didn't start off that way, but like a bit into the video, they started talking about some things in like level 3 and whatever. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Let me write this down. So I started writing down more of the strategy stuff and the stuff that's explained. And I ended up doing that over the course of the video. So I got like 9 pages or something of notes that are mostly, well, I guess you can break it down, like, let's say half and half. I was going to say it's mostly strategy, but I guess it's like half and half explanations of how mechanics work and like strategy for playing the game. And I just got like really excited about trying to see if I play the game essentially blind, but with, like, blind as in, I mean, I guess it's not really, I've seen the game, I have notes, I have played it previously, but it's like my first attempt, I guess you could call it, you know, with no real practice. But just having this kind of resource with me, like how much of that knowledge can I apply and how much of the game is going to be like, oh wow, okay, this isn't as easy as it looked, which I'm sure will be a lot of it. But even then, I think that's a much stronger starting point than if I had went in without those resources. Captain has a flame shot. I mean, I don't think that's a bad attack, but the big problem, I guess, you know, they didn't go into super duper specifics, but there's like one key thing that makes Captain and Ninja weaker, which is that their combo has like worse range and worse hitboxes. And your combo is like your, even more so than in most Final Fight derivatives, or at least Capcom beat 'em ups. There's no combo throws in Captain Commando, which I was kind of surprised to learn. I'm sure I noticed it when I played it last, but I didn't remember it. And because of that, like you use, the way the combo works is a little different from Final Fight or the Punisher or whatever else. So in a way, you're almost relying on it more. So it being weaker is a big detriment to the character. More specifically, like the hitboxes are such that enemies can like slip out of your combo on the third hit, because your third hit has like shorter reach than the first or second hit. And that can be like a real problem. It makes the combo less reliable, and I can see how that would make a pretty big difference over the course of the entire game. You know, every character is viable, but as is typically the case in arcade beat-em-ups, there's like a pretty clear stratification over like who is a strong character, who is good, and who is less good. In some games, you know, the characters are different enough that it's not a one-to-one, and you might have a strong preference in playstyle. But I think Captain Commando, to my understanding anyway, the characters aren't that different. There isn't like a split like there is between Cody and Hagar. Everyone is just kind of the same-ish, but they have enough differences in their moves and their hitboxes and things like that to make a difference in who is stronger and weaker. But anyway, yeah, I'm just like really excited to kind of reassess and get into Captain Commando more. And as such, like this game has definitely kind of leapfrogged my other prospective 1cc games. Mostly on account of I having this resource now that should help make that journey a lot easier. But legitimately, like the video made the game look fun. What's up, Goaty_? Yeah, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs was the other game that's kind of like my shortlist. At least, you know, the games I wanted to look at next, and I guess technically, depending on how today goes, we might look at them, was Cadillacs and Dinosaurs and Tensho Kurao 2. But the reason I'm kind of, more specifically, I guess, so right now I'm feeling like more tempted. I feel like the path is going to be shorter and easier to try to like push on with Captain Commando over those games. But it's not just because I have this kind of resource to go by. I'm sure I could find resources for some of those other games too. But also, like even people who are into Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, like a common kind of complaint about that game is that it's like 50% filler. A lot of the game is pretty trivial. So it's like a 45-minute run that has like 25 minutes that is kind of whatever. I'm sure I wouldn't feel that way trying to learn it, but it means that it's like, it's not as dense and tight as Captain Commando. And Tensho Kurao 2, I think, is even worse. I don't know how much of it is quote-unquote filler, but I'm pretty sure it's an even longer game. I think that's like an hour-ish. Try to learn it on the later half like a chore. Yeah, I mean, I think that's not too uncommon. Like even with Final Fight, the final stage is like almost half the run, and it's like a big kind of difficulty spike. I guess spike isn't the right word for it, I guess, but I've heard people say that like, at the very least, as far as like practice and learning the game goes, like kind of a majority of the time you're going to be spending learning Final Fight is learning the final stage. Um, which isn't inherently like a bad thing, but I can feel it feels likely that it would contribute to kind of losing a bit of steam and having less fun with it. Cadillacs Dinosaurs is a very popular game. I played that compared to all of these. This is, that's one of the games I play the more of as like when CPS1 emulation first became a thing. Like Cadillacs and Dinosaurs is just so immediately appealing on the surface. It's very bright and colorful and fun. The music's amazing. Like, you have such good mobility. It's like easy and fun to move around. You can explode guys with rockets and shotguns and shit. Like, it's just a fun game. But as far as like getting into it, I don't know, something about it hasn't felt the most appealing. Part of it maybe is because even like in casual play, some of the bosses feel so annoying. But of course that's like not, I mean, that's true for most beat 'em ups. So that's not a great, like, you shouldn't, I guess, judge how much of a chore beat 'em up 1cc is going to be based on your experience with fighting bosses without knowing any strats, because that's usually going to be miserable. Punisher is like a rare exception to that. But there was a few things that I guess kind of contributed to that. But I still think, in the hypothetical scenario that I get to Captain Commando and I get the 1cc pretty quickly like I did with the Punisher, I still think like the rest of the kind of potential queue doesn't change that much. Unless I specifically feel like I want to go for something very different. Cadillacs Dinosaurs is still like a reasonably high ranking candidate. I appreciate that request, Vineout, but I will reject it. I will refund you your points, and I'll do it right away, because I'll forget it otherwise. I'm happily open to doing that in the future, but I think today's stream might be a little shorter, so I don't want to get too distracted and sidetracked by a bunch of other stuff. Please understand. So on that note, I think we should try to get to it. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Atomic Runner. It's not an indictment of the game itself necessarily, or that like the process isn't fun. But sometimes, even fun things can be a bit of a chore. Yeah, I think like Captain Command or Cadillacs and Dinosaurs is well regarded for a reason. And I would say my understanding of it, at least as far as like 1cc ranking, whatever, that it's I think as far as the Capcom games go, my perception anyway is that the Punisher is in kind of a tier of its own because it is like actually easy. But Cadillacs is probably not too far behind. Like Cadillacs and Dinosaurs is a longer game, I think. Well, I guess it's a similar length. But it has maybe a few more... Like, it has more stages, so it has more boss fights than the Punisher does. So I think it maybe has more difficult bosses. At the very least, it has... Like, the Slicesaurus fight... Even among the kind of the boss fights that required a bit more practice in the Punisher... I don't think there's no equivalent to that kind of fight, probably. But yeah, none of them feel bad. All of them are fun to boot up. Like, if you're gonna button mash, credit feed your way through a game, or even just play one credit, like, I don't think you really can go wrong with any of them. Yeah, Cadillacs, I think, is similar to Captain Commando, in that the characters aren't that different, and Mustafa's running kick is like just absurdly good. So that alone makes him the clear best character, or the easiest character. So he's probably the character I would use. Like, for the most part, that's the thing too. Like, it's a difference between trying to learn a 1cc versus just booting a game up and messing around with it for fun, is if I do that, then I'll pick whatever character I think is cool. But for a 1cc, I will at least consider, maybe it won't dictate my choice, but I will at least consider which character will make it easier to get the clear. And if it's a game where I don't particularly feel strongly about the characters, I may pick a character I wouldn't otherwise have picked if they like make the 1cc significantly easier. But I think it varies a little bit from game to game. You know, in some games you might have a favorite character and turns out that they're dog shit. Like, I wouldn't torture myself with that for the sake of it. But if the strongest character also doesn't interest me, that could be a reason to like not bother with the game. Because I don't know if this is true for C&D, but let's say for the sake of argument that Mustafa 1cc is easy, but it's very difficult with everyone else, and I thought Mustafa was a shitty character that I didn't want to use, then instead of like torturing myself with a Hannah or Mess 1cc, I might just skip the game entirely. I don't think that's true, like that's not a literal example, but just I'm sure there are other equivalents. Yeah, Knights of the Round was kind of on my short list too. I'm still really fascinated with it. But there's a couple of reasons why it's a little bit more on the back burner, because part of it is that it's such a different game mechanically. It's like a double-edged sword, no pun intended, because that's a big part why I find it interesting. It's not necessarily that I would want to make a game like that, but it feels so different from every other Capcom beat-em-up and most other arcade beat-em-ups in general. And I think it's got a lot of cool ideas. And I think its method for kind of knowledge checking you and skill checking you with the use of... like, the blocking becomes paramount for boss fights, primarily. So you kind of really gotta engage with the mechanics to play the game. But then on top of that, like, you have a bunch of other moves that are kind of useless, or you don't necessarily want to rely on, like other command moves. And then the biggest issue really with the game for me is that there's so many overlapping inputs that execution becomes a real challenge. Like, you have to really have clean execution to play that game. And it's very frustrating to not get the execution right. So I think to a degree, like, what I could learn from playing that game is harder to apply to other games, which is why I think it's a more worthwhile endeavor a little kind of further along in my journey. I'd happy to get that as my like 5th 1cc, but maybe not my 2nd one. Oh, I agree entirely. I think the blocking mechanic in Knights of the Round justifies itself. I mean, like, I haven't played the game enough to really know how I feel about how it all kind of comes together in the end, so to speak. But a big part of the appeal of that game, or the big reason why I find it interesting, is that it doesn't feel like, it feels different. Like, you're using swords and weapons. Like, the entire feel of the game, the entire set of mechanics is formed around the use of weaponry. Like, you couldn't say Golden Axe, for example. You could imagine a reskinned version of Golden Axe where every character uses their fists. Like, a game could mechanically work just like Golden Axe, but you could have your fists. A game could mechanically work like Final Fight, but you have a sword, and in fact, there's quite a few games like that. But a game like Knights of the Round, except instead of swords, you use your fists, like, that would be really weird. Because the timing and the feel and the mechanics are all, like, tailored to the experience of swinging a heavy sword, and I think that's so cool about it. And not only does that, I think, conceptually justify the use of a parry, I think the way it works is more kind of thought out and interesting than in most games that feel like they shove it in there as kind of a obligation almost, more so than a specific, like, for a specific reason or design purpose. I played Denji Makai. I did like one playthrough on the last stream. I really enjoyed it. I haven't spent any time with it outside of that, pretty much. But I liked it enough. Like, the feel of it is really good. It felt, for the most part, like the boss fights were surprisingly kind of fair. I don't know what learning on 1cc would entail, really, but I definitely want to spend more time with it. At the very, very least, I want to do more playthroughs with other characters, because I just played with Makai exclusively. So as far as... Like, that's the thing. That's a game I want to spend more time with. It's a game I want to learn more. But because I just happened to stumble into this resource about Captain Commando, that's giving me kind of a shortcut to skip that step of, like, just familiarizing myself. You know, kind of lowering the barrier, which makes it quite appealing to try to look at that next. Now, however, I might determine after today that I didn't actually enjoy Captain Commando and we'll move on to something else. But for now, it's what I'm the most eager to check it out. So let's do that. I will not be sidetracked any further. Let's see, do I have... Surely I should have... Yeah. This... So let me configure my controls. Let's get the audio mixer up on screen, you never know.
Commando.
Okay. Let me know if audio levels need adjusting. So I will configure some controls and then I will dig up my notes. That's what the controls we really need. Actually, and no, I want to... No, I guess it's under user interface. I will want to make some save states so I can actually practice. If F7. Oh right, so that's. I'm like super unfamiliar with using save states in MAME because I'm 67,000 years old. So when I started using MAME, it didn't have save states, and after a couple of years, MAME implemented save states, but they were completely broken and did not at all work reliably. So in my mind, even though this has not been true for the last, I don't know, 20 years, in my mind, MAME save states are still like unreliable. Like you don't want to use save states in MAME. So I never like it. You know, I might use save states in other emulators, but in MAME in particular, it's like, oh, that's not to be trusted. Old habits die hard, I guess. I just want to see. I guess there's nothing bound to shift, so it should be fine. I don't want to get like accidental double inputs whenever I do a save state. Change the save state hotkeys. Well, not a problem for me, since I, you know, never use them. And I also don't know if my version of MAME is from less than a year ago. It might be like 8 years old. I do know for a fact at one point, I mean, this was a long time ago, of course, but I had to go back to an older version of MAME to play Batman Forever because it was running, and then there were some update and changes that made the final level not work properly. It ran at like 1 FPS. I think it has like since then been fixed to work properly. But otherwise, it's mostly just not bothering keeping up, especially with, you know, like ROM sets change and all that kind of weird stuff. Yeah, so Captain Commando doesn't have a timer. That's really weird. That's something I learned. Let's see. do I do this in a sensible way? Can't really... I'm a little short on screen real estate to actually put this on... I don't intend to put it on stream, but I need to... Well, I would like to put it on screen so I can read it. Guess I can do this. Game volume's a little high. No, that's not a problem. It's I appreciate it. Maybe that's better? If you don't mention it, I can't fix it. So I don't take personal offense to being informed that my audio levels could be improved. So don't feel bad about mentioning it. I would be more upset if you didn't mention it. Let me do a quick recap. So I don't have any notes for stage 1 or stage 2 because I didn't actually start taking notes until stage 3 in the video. But I do have some general like controls, mechanics, notes. I mean, I guess we could start, but let's reset anyway. I want to see the attract mode. So I think I'll be going with Mummy. At least for now. That doesn't mean I'll commit to using Mummy for my actual 1cc attempts, if it comes to that. One problem I have with this game is that I don't really like any of the characters. Like, I think the art direction and the character design and artwork and everything is like lovely. You know, it's not bad. But in terms of like looking at the game and saying, "Ooh, damn, I want to play that character. That character looks sick." There is no obvious choice for me. They're all mostly fine, but none of them are like really stand out for like, man, this is a sick character. Like in terms of really appealing to me. However, on that scale, Baby is like by a huge margin at the bottom of the list. Like he is both big, clunky, slow tank character, which is not something I care for that much. He is a robot, which I also don't care for that much. And he is a literal baby. I don't like child characters, so he's got like multiple strikes against him. Obviously, being the strongest character in some sense, like the easiest 1cc, is, you know, the argument for him. But Mummy strikes a balance between being a strong character and a character I don't find aesthetically, you know, directly unappealing. Like, of the 4 main characters, Baby is the one I find legitimately, like, that I kind of dislike. But the others, I'm not, like... There isn't a single one I'm, like, immediately gravitating towards either. But I think we'll go with Mummy. Doesn't he have the farthest neutral punch? That may be the case. I don't know all the specifics, really. But my understanding is that Mummy and Baby are the 2 good characters, and that might not be exclusively, but at least partially down to their combo hitboxes being more reliable. Mummy can also move around during his Super Joy, which from what I've seen looks like it's quite useful in places. Could have had Hulk Hogan as Suburban Commando. Should they, though? Alright, so this is not going to be necessarily like a super clean run-through. I will probably do a bunch of like pausing and reading notes and checking things and doing save states. I figured I would just like set up save states, at least for every level. That doesn't mean I will like stop and redo sections over and over to practice them at this point. But at least, like, we should not maybe consider this like a full run practice attempt. It's more like exploration and setting up maybe some save states. Should probably think like I could set up a hotkey that's more convenient. I guess I'll be doing save states like just at the beginning of each stage, basically. So it should be fine.
Commando.
All right, so let's pick Mummy. I guess we don't need a save state at the beginning of stage 1 necessarily. So you can jab, you can walk, you can run. You can run in 8 directions. The run seems very similar to the Punisher. Like, after a while, you kind of slow down, and then you sort of run out of run. You can do your running attack in 8 directions. Interesting. The diagonal range, I guess it's like normalized, but it feels shorter because of it. Running jump attack. Oh, hang on. Okay, I did an accidental run. So this is his normal jump attack. That's his jumping down attack. And that's the running jump attack. Big range, but not like huge, like Captain's Flamethrower or anything. You cannot buffer Super Joys. That's kind of weird. Not like in Final Fight, you can hold jump and press punch to do the Super Joy, or vice versa, but you cannot do that here. Holding jump and pressing punch just gives you a punch. Actually he seems to move even a little faster than walking during Super Joy. Super Joys drain a kind of significant chunk of health in this game, but it doesn't if you don't hit anything, and it also doesn't drain more if you hit more enemies. So you can move forward when you jab. But you cannot do a combo throw, i.e. canceling your combo ender into a throw. So the jab infinite is apparently a lot easier in this game than in Final Fight and most other games, because you don't have to actually whiff an attack in the other direction. You just have to turn around. Finding the rhythm takes a little practice, of course. You die differently depending on your character. Interesting. You can break these. I'm probably gonna want to do mostly. Just because I don't know how to use them. And by breaking them, you can prevent enemies from using them. That's the boss. Dog. So this is like a pretty short stage. One section. My frames. Block. Trying to stay outside of my range. See there, I can like push forward during my animation to like stay in range. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Rocket launchers flash when you're on your last rocket. There we go. That was pretty close. No healing items. Like short stage with like 1.5 encounter. Let's save on 2 for stage 2. I gotta I gotta catch my breath. That was a little dicey, but pretty happy with that. Got the no miss stage 1. You can do stuff like that. Gonna get Carols here. Yeah. Corral these guys. Grab the edge of the screen. You can kind of just do this, I think. Not quite. Okay. Learning. Cutscene. Yep, that's an encounter. Like every section is so short. It's very interesting. Oh yeah, because of the lack of the throw. Okay, I wasn't ready for that. The combo throw. Crowd control ends up being pretty different in this game. Oh my god, I grabbed him, but it still got the flame out. Oh shit, okay, boss already. Ah, there's the food, okay. I knew the boss was like at the wall, so I wasn't ready for the boss to show up. Before I saw the wall. Alright, I guess we'll grab this. Nope, okay. This guy is like, as I understand it, kind of like Sodom. He's a bit of a difficulty spike. Really cheap. Okay, my dashing execution not quite on point. Oh! Okay. I didn't realize he was doing a drop kick there. Because he was jumping on like the Z-axis. Kind of cool. You have this like hitbox behind you, basically. On your jab. He's like really hard to reach. Yeah, you can hit the harpoons. But the positioning is really tricky. Like, so this is clearly a boss that's going to require non-insignificant amount of practice just to familiarize yourself with his patterns and everything. But yeah, I love that the stages are so short. It's like so dense. Like there's again, I didn't let's see, I might have some notes on the boss. Okay, yeah, nothing really. So the only notes I was able to take on this fight kind of retroactively is that the Marvins that run in, that's like an interesting thing that's kind of similar between this and Knights of the Round. King of Dragons, I mean, that the enemies that run in from the sides to fire a projectile and then peace out, those enemies universally have a chance of dropping items, which enemies don't otherwise do. And the ones that come in during boss fights specifically have, I guess, a much higher, if not a guaranteed, chance of dropping items. And usually you would get a small health item. But from what I saw in the video and from what I recall, you kind of want to stay on the top of the bottom because some of his patterns, when he does like either the rapid or the kind of staggered, are harpoon shots, he will end up at the top or the bottom. Or rather, he will move up such that if you are at the very top of the belt, you can reach him, but his final harpoon shot will go below you, like it will miss. And I was able to put myself in that spot once or twice. But I didn't have a feel for the boss's ability to just kind of jump out of your combo if you don't, keep, like, basically the bosses all have like kind of an infinite prevention system where they, like, the infinite combo doesn't actually lock enemies down and hit stun in this game. It looks like, and I'm not saying that based on my own performance, but from what I saw in that video, but rather enemies just have a little bit of an idle period. Like, once they get out of hit stun, they won't do anything for long enough that you can hit them again. But some enemy types, and especially the bosses, they will jump out of the way or fight back or do something if you don't keep them in hit stun. So I got openings that I did not properly capitalize on because I wasn't kind of mashing out the combo aggressively enough. That's my take on it anyway. All right, Ninja House. So this is an interesting thing too. One difference between this I wanted to grab him. Rid of him. I guess mashing to get up faster isn't a thing in this. It didn't hit in front of me. One very interesting difference between this game and Final Fight is that you cannot bait enemies or like spawn enemies one at a time. Spawn triggers in this game are not for individual enemies, but for like whole encounters. Okay, that might have been a full heal. I actually don't know the healing items in this. That's like a relatively rare, just permanent static food drop. Which means that if you advance slowly in this game, once you hit a trigger, you're more likely to have enemies like pile up on you. Whereas in Final Fight, like it's a good survival strat to inch forward very slowly. This section, eventually at least, you can apparently skip and despawn a bunch of these guys. Not quite these guys, I guess. Unless I fucked something up. Maybe it's after this initial wave. So, yep, cutscene. Oh, trying to hit him with the throw. That's a cool death animation. This takes some practice. This guy, Yamato, is susceptible to plane shifting. But he moves pretty quickly on his wake up there. That's interesting. Oh, wow, okay. Maybe not quite as easy as it looks. Certainly do that at least. Like, he has such a little quick dash on his wake up. If you're standing close enough, or like you see there before his like slice. Okay, so that white flash is like going into the next phase, I guess. He's gonna start spawning ninjas. Okay, you gotta bigger Z-axis hitbox than maybe it looks like. I reckon in theory I could still use these guys to throw them against the boss if it came to that. Oh, this is a bad spot. Okay, he jumps away. Thank you. Got him. Interesting. Yeah, I can see how the knowledge I have is helpful and applicable, but I can also tell where there are like huge gaps in, like, having kind of only seen how things work out when you're doing them correctly. I have zero experience or practice with like trying to adapt to when things don't go well, but it's still, I have a huge advantage over if I had gone in blind, which feels pretty good. And I love the fact that the stages are super short and like it's so crystal clear how you could easily break the game down into bite-sized chunks for practice. Like, this section is crazy. There's 2 enemies. One guy leaves. So this is, yeah, that's the first section of stage 4. It's one enemy. Literally one enemy. These guys now run away. Two enemies. Oh, yeah, okay. 2 enemies. Now we're in the arena. Stand here somewhere, because these guys don't get hit by them. Prevent them from doing that. Worry about the bazooka dicks on the bottom. Yep, okay, that's that scene. And boss time. You know what? I'm gonna... right there. Okay, I didn't think that would hit me. Yeah, so, okay. Comboing this guy. Ah, okay. Yeah, I need to practice dashing.
Commando.
I frame. Nope, okay. Put a super droid there. Got a little unlucky there, not getting any food drops, I think. I didn't actually want to pick that up. I guess he's not going to do the stomp while items are still on screen, for better or for worse. Okay. Yeah, no reason not to just mash on Super Joy. He's gonna die before I do, and I get my health back at the next stage. That's my call 45. This is like a bonus stage of sorts. Shadows Knights of the Round being the only Capcom beat 'em up with actual good mounts. I was gonna say, how many of them even have mounts? I guess Tenchu Kodao probably has them, right? And this one does. Maybe they're more common than I think of because the Punisher doesn't have them and the Final Fight doesn't have them. But yeah, like weapons, mounts, items, like anything that changes your kit it's like a kind of roll of the dice, whether it's a liability or an actual benefit. Like in beat 'em ups in general. Like in some games, like Tough Turf, like you pick up the pipe and it's like, oh yeah, now you can play the game. You lose the pipe, it's like, well, might as well restart. And then you have other games where you pick up a weapon, it's like, oh fuck, you might as well reset because your character's shit now. You lose your quick attack, or like you get a knockdown on every hit, so fights take like 10 times longer, and you're gonna run out of time. Like there could be any number of things that make um, fights just increasingly awkward, or having picked up something that you would think is like a benefit. Stage 5. So first part of stage 5, I guess, is like a bonus stage. Like these guys don't actually do anything, I don't think. But you get points for killing dudes. Okay, they can actually hurt you. Good final fight. Billboard sounds. But I think you can basically just be in the corner. Look like it in the video anyway. Yeah. So you can kind of rest your fingers a little bit. I'm actually in the far corner. And there's the boss, quote unquote. Winner. Okay. I didn't lose to nobody. And even this is like pseudo bonus. Don't get exploded by bombs. Pick it up a little bit. Oh, I got hit. Well, there we go. Kill him. So that's the thing. You get like a time bonus for knocking him out. This is like a phantom boat chase level if it wasn't shit. Because at least this lasts for about 45 seconds, and then you move on with your life. Man, oh, I'm trying to remember. Okay, actually, you know what? I tried to pause, press and start button. At this point, I have a bunch of notes, so I can actually look at my notes. This game moves at a fucking lightning pace here. Funnel is about 3 screens wide. Big encounter with somewhat staggered spawns. After defeating Mardia or enough of the popcorn, second encounter is triggered. Mech Wookiee will spawn dashing in from the left, but only if we've scrolled the screen enough. So we can scroll the screen first. And once he has dashed in, there's going to be another wave from the right. And there's going to be dudes coming in from the manhole. I didn't take any notes on this level aside from this section, but I believe at the end of this level, we're going to fight the double Stroms. And I have notes. I have notes for the boss fights, like, separate from the stages. I don't know if I should change that in my talk here. Well, whatever. There's the mech. See, I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't sure. Yeah, like, I didn't have a clear enough idea about the trigger. I didn't mean to do all that. Okay. Interesting. Based on my notes, I would have thought that more guys would come from the right, but maybe not until I get these guys. Or maybe there was just, like, one dick with a bazooka from the right. Okay. Yeah. You know what? Let me revise my notes here. Yeah, another wave from the unless there's some like rank thing or anything that is not accurate. But I don't think rank affects. I don't think there are spawns that like don't happen at lower ranks. At least I haven't heard about that. I think rank only affects like aggression or like the behavior of the enemies. The one thing I remember being talked about specifically is like enemies who can block will block more frequently at higher rank. And things like that. Um, um, 100 score per punch. Yeah, I'm not too concerned with playing for score. Actually, while I'm paused, let's look at my notes for boss on stage 6, Strom and Druck. So we can, there's an exploit of standing in the top left corner. Yeah, I didn't like, so Shishik, I was looking at a video that was really good, breaking down the game, and I only started taking notes at like stage 3, so I didn't take any notes for stage 1 and 2. I went, I got through them pretty all right. I got through, I arrived at Strom Jr. deathless. I took like 3 deaths on him, but that's to be expected. But I didn't die in stage 1, but it's possible that there's some easy strats that may or may not involve the mech or bazookas. I'll have to come back to it. But yeah, so there's going to be like a curved back wall in the boss arena, and if we stand on the top left, so this is a thing that's very common in beat 'em ups, where if you have your back against the wall, the AI will have some problems dealing with that because they can't surround you, and especially if you're in a corner, if you're in like a nook, so they can only approach you from forward or from below. A lot of the time you can basically just stand in that corner and mash, and enemies have like no recourse. This game doesn't have a ton of that, but there are some instances, and this is like kind of one of them. I don't expect the fight to be completely free, but it does help a lot because you can kind of, well, we'll see. I'm not going to be able to execute it very well, I'm sure, but it makes this fight more manageable in a way than the stage 2 boss, despite the fact that we're going to be fighting 2 of these guys. So we're going to get Marbins who show up that can drop HP, but if we stand in the right spot, they won't be able to reach us, and we probably don't want to give up that spot to try and chase them down, because it'll probably just result in us getting hit. Yeah, the final boss exploit is really interesting. I'm actually curious to mess around a little bit with that, but I'm of course not gonna be able to execute it very well on my first try. But it's funny, like, you can loop the final boss because he doesn't have iframes on wake up. But the way he works is if you drop the loop, the only way to restart it is by dying. But without, like, he's easy with the loop, or like, easy. The loop itself is maybe not easy depending on the character you use. But he cannot fight back. Like, you can lock him down, but if you don't get the loop, he's like mega fucked. Just flies around shooting projectiles and like is very difficult to hit. But Baby has a grab. Like, if you do Baby's pile driver, the timing sets up perfectly that you don't have to execute. Like, you just hold forward and you will grab him as soon as he wakes up, and you do the pile driver again, and you hold forward, and like that's the loop. The other characters need to dash to get into position to grab him on his wake up, which is a lot more executionally demanding. So I'm actually very excited to try that to see how it feels to try to perform it. Since I'm paused here, I might as well. Maybe I'm misremembering the section here. Oh, I guess there's... Okay, the boss is not... There's a bit here first. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're gonna fight Z for the first time here. So they have, like, this massive, basically full-screen claw attack. Like that. But they have this, like, really wide stance when they get ready. That makes them easy to hit. I'm playing the Japanese version. As Capcom USA often did, they just changed the names of every character in the US version. Oh, that can happen. Marvin's tiny ass frame lets him like dash under stuff. I didn't mean to throw him that way. Okay, that was kind of lucky. Okay, this is where I actually wanted to save for the boss. Not quite the boss, but whatever. Waiting there. Hey, are you gonna come out? Okay, gotta scroll the screen. Not sure about the exact spot to stand in, but that worked. If they do the drop kick, you can do that. Carbons are out of our range. We jab out all the harpoons. Okay. Whenever I see him jump, I'm like nervous. Oh yeah, and another cool thing is if you kill one of the bosses, the fight's over. Okay, yeah, deathless first try. Be cool if you look more like Marty Jannetty, Party Marty. I don't know, man. That felt really good. I'm glad that went well. Yeah, I think Guy's like the wackest character in Final Fight. He doesn't have any cool distinguishing things that make him interesting or good. Like his unique ability is that he can wall kick, which is like there's like 2 places in the game where it's like literally usable, and there are like 0 places where it's actually useful. Technically, I think he's supposed to be better with the sword, which I don't know exactly what that amounts to. The biggest difference mechanically, I feel otherwise, is that because he has the longer combo, he has to land more hits before he can access the combo throw, which makes him harder to use than Cody. That's my non-expert take on it. Okay, stage 7. Oh, actually, let's read some notes. I'm so that fight was so good. I mean, I think Guy is a cool character. I like Guy, but when I play Final Fight, there's not a lot of incentive to actually using him. Underground Base Stage 7. Right, so this is a slightly longer stage. Yeah, Sexy Toilet. Classic. Right, so at the start of this level, there's going to be ninjas, and then there's going to be barrels falling in from above, and more ninjas teleporting in. Just like in Stage 3, if we reach the second encounter trigger, the first encounter just goes away. That's probably easier said than done, but we're gonna try to go for it. Yeah, I think Hagar is like the most fun character to use because the like looping combo grabs is super fun. But he isn't necessarily the easiest. Part of that is because with Cody, a lot of the game boils down to doing the infinite, which takes a little practice, but once you have it, like if you can do it consistently, there are multiple encounters that you can kind of lock down to the point where they're like solved, and there's less. It takes sort of less effort. It takes certainly less like effort in the form of recognizing and adapting once you're like in that spot. Whereas it's less common with Hagar, I think, to like solve an encounter where it goes like, okay, I got my winning condition. Let's just keep going until it's done. But with Cody, that's kind of how the fights go. Sort of. And just in general, his quick jabs, like, I guess you could say that Cody's strengths are a little easier to access than Hagar's strengths in some sense. But I think they're both fun to use in their own way. Yeah, the thing is, like, Final Fight is like such a miracle game. They invented so many things whole cloth, and they got so many things right. Like, there's a couple of things that are pretty fucked about the game for sure, and I like how they refined and iterated on the formula. But one thing is, like, Final Fight, I think most people would agree is like the hardest of the Capcom beat 'em ups. Like, it's many of the subsequent games both like gave the player some more abilities, specifically like better mobility, better movement, and Final Fight has like the largest characters and the smallest belts. So like Final Fight is the most cramped out of all the Capcom beat 'em ups. And especially with no movement options aside from like the back jump, you can't really like it's a lot harder to maneuver out of the way of enemies and positioning. And that alone, like even if Cody's jab is like super powerful, it's like far reaching and it's lightning fast and whatever, he has the infinite. Like the infinite's hard to perform. Positioning is more difficult, and like enemy waves are pretty harsh. Like, so I don't think it's probably my favorite in terms of difficulty tuning, in terms of me having the most fun. Like, there's a reason why I'm not even really entertaining the idea of trying to learn the 1cc for now. I have to like build up to it, but it's still an amazing game, and it still feels so good and so fun to play. But yeah, I think it's really awesome how like the Capcom beat 'em ups aren't really the same, but like like iterative. Like they are iterative, but they are all kind of different. I'm sure there are some that are a bit more closer to each other. Like you could argue that this and Cadillacs and Dinosaurs are a bit similar, but the lack of the combo throw alone and the pacing of this, like those two things make these very different. I mean, if you compare it to the Konami games, I think Metamorphic Force is like X-Men, but it feels better. TMNT and The Simpsons and X-Men are all like kind of similar-ish in some ways. Like they have the Crime Fighters games, Crime Fighters 2 especially, and then Violent Storm that are like super different. But there is that sort of Konami style where, as far as game mechanics go, after playing Metamorphic Force, I feel like I have no reason to go back to X-Men, because X-Men is so similar, but it feels worse. I mean, I might want to play it because of the characters and stuff, but as far as like how the game plays, but with Capcom beat 'em ups, I don't think that's kind of true in the same way. Anyway, so once we get to the, so we're gonna go through this horizontal stretch, and then the path is gonna go down to this diagonal corridor. Um, and that's gonna set up another opportunity to get like a safe spot. Does the Metamorphic Force have that annoying timer? The US version probably has an annoying timer. I'm sure the US version has all kinds of annoying shit. But the first rule of Konami beat 'em ups is never play the world or US versions, only play the Japanese versions. Like Konami always made their games worse for the international versions. And by worse, I mean like more punishing and more annoying. Gauntlet Hell. Yeah, that's stupid. The only game that like can do that, I guess, is Spider-Man, because it has actual liberal health drops. I was shocked when I saw the Metamorphic Force has like actual score instead of Konami scoring. That's pretty cool. Anyway, sorry, let me try to continue my notes here. So at the diagonal section, you can put yourself at sort of the top of the screen and against the wall, and you'll put yourself in such a spot that you have the wall behind you and like the edge of the screen in front of you. And there's like kind of a spot, just like you saw when I tried to fight guys who were like outside the screen, where like edges of the screen are often a kind of a weird area in beat 'em ups, because the enemies are designed in most games, like their behavior, or they're programmed, I should say, to base their behavior on their relative position to you, whether they're in front of you or behind you, and they try to get into position. So, and that's why walls and corners are kind of fucky, because if you are standing somewhere where the the floor, like there is no space for the enemy character to get into the position they're looking to get into. Like you kind of block off parts of their behavior. And the other thing is with the edge of the screen, in a lot of games, even if the computer controlled characters can move beyond the borders of the screen, there's usually kind of a grace, like a mercy rule, I guess we can call it, where if you're standing at the edge of the screen and an enemy character is off screen, they will be in the position relative to your character, like as if you're in the middle of the screen. But if they're off screen, they won't maybe do the attack they would have done otherwise. So they will kind of walk into the screen without attacking as they would have if they approached you from the front mid-screen. So you can like extend your hitbox to the edge of the screen, and they will like walk into that before they actually hit you. That's basically why it's a strong strat to knock people down and stand at the edge of the screen and mash. And that's like, you know, obviously different games do it differently, but it's not entirely unusual for that to be like kind of a strat that you want to go for. Obviously, I didn't nail it down entirely in this game, but that's like a thing. So that's why when you're in this like sloped area, you're in this unique spot where you can have the edge of the screen right in front of you and a wall right behind you. So there's like the only direction that enemies can approach you from is the front, where the edge of the screen will prevent them from actually attacking. Did I save? I did, okay. Alright, we might be fucked. I think it's like weirdly tricky, okay. There we go, they disappeared. But like I kind of fucked that up. I took a lot of damage. So here I probably... Oh yeah, enemies can get stunned in this game, which is an interesting mechanic. It's in Cadillacs and Dinosaurs too, I think. So I probably want... Okay, I cannot... Okay, so I need to do this... This encounter I need to actually do. This is like encounter 2. There we go. Now the camera scrolls. I don't know if this is the exact right spot, but... See, these guys are like kind of hapless, and there's no timer. So I'm not pressured. I might be... Okay, yeah. You don't want to be at like the very, very tippy top, I think. Oh yeah, so here's another thing. If you're in the actual correct spot, there you go. When they drop items, they don't land on your feet. So we'll just do this. Rest a little bit. Have a drink. Am I only at 4 continues? It feels like it would be more. Okay, I think we're done. So, at the very end of this section... Fucked up. You can do the same thing. You have this tiny little corner. Am I playing this at 320 by 240? No, I have a window maximized. I mean, the game itself is 384 by 224. I have whatever filtering option is used by default in MAME, if you're wondering about the rendering. Okay, these guys are... Again, there's no timer. But I might be, like, the thing, I might not be in the exact correct spot here. But yeah, you can see... I think maybe you can wiggle out of their grabs. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I guess they have like iframes on Wake Up. Yeah, the Infinite's a lot easier here than a lot of games. Right, so then there's this whole section. Let me read my notes. You make yeah, mass-producing gamers. Yeah, it's funny because it looks like it's like a factory conveyor belt section, but it's just a background that's scrolling. The floor is actually static. So there's going to be falling barrels again, and there's going to be 2 Musashis in front of us, and then 2 Mardias that are going to spawn in and chase us. As we advance the screen further, we'll spawn more falling barrels. So if you try to kind of get more room to the right, or like, you know, you're retreating to the right, essentially, you'll trigger more barrels. So ideally, we want to keep things on our left. No, I didn't even throw him that way. See, that is a good example of needing to kind of get to the right. So now we're mega fucked here. Completely bungled this encounter. That up. Okay, let me check. So now I think, yeah, there's a couple of Wookiees. So there's going to be 2 Bazooka Dicks. Their name's Dick, okay? I'm not disparaging. From the right. I think it's top right, bottom right, then top left, bottom left. And if I can be ready to kill those guys, I might get some food. Oh. Ooh, nice, delicious sandwich. There's a lemon here, at least. Got my Call 45's self-insert. I love that he's got his fucking, like, office desk. And then we drop down into ostensibly the easiest boss fight in the game. Gotta not fuck that up. Okay. And running is like weirdly difficult in this game. Takes a little bit of execution. Oh, wow, okay. So he doesn't get knocked down. But he lands on his feet. But he will walk into you like on the Z-axis, and we'll just walk into getting hit by our combo. The blood. So yeah, a lot of it's just like, obviously I took some deaths there, but I still feel strongly that he's an easy boss. You wouldn't expect, like, I was shocked that we got through the Strom fight, the double Stroms, that easily, because it was a strat that turned out to be surprisingly easy to actually implement. I'll just need a little bit of practice with his like movement. He's pretty fast. So understanding where you need to stand and how to get there, and just like running, dashing takes a little bit more execution than I would have maybe expected. But yeah, there's like no other enemies to deal with. Like he's kind of similar to Yamato, the third boss, except there are no other enemies. So makes it relatively simple. Enemies, spaceship, stage 8. 8A. Waves of Carols will come in and fire electricity from the right, then left. So we can be on top of them to preempt it, or probably be on the center screen, part of the screen to avoid. I think maybe if I remember correctly, the left wave of Carols, 2 of them will then like advance to start actually fighting, and then more guys will show up, I guess. Second encounter will be more waves of Carols from the right than left. And then we'll get a static food item. Then we're gonna get a bunch of waves of those like enemy formations. I have a lot of notes that are a little difficult to parse without context. If there's a trigger. Oh yeah, see, so those guys stay in the fight. And there's the... Okay, right. So I thought there were a couple of Carols from the second wave that would stay in the fight, but it was actually these guys. Ah. Push forward, but not enough to not get hit by that guy. Oh, I see where I was confused. It's in this encounter that the left Carols stay in the fight. There we go. Static food item. I thought these guys were going to come from the right. There we go. Saxophone. It's really interesting that these, the formation enemies, whatever you want to call them, the projectile guys, they don't actually die in one hit, like in Final Fight. You have to actually fight them a little bit more to get rid of them. But you do get the benefit of actually getting item drops from them.
Commando.
Unity. So if you manage to grab them when they come in, you'd have to hit them. Probably bad. You have to like pummel them once or twice, probably twice before throwing them. But I think that's a super interesting dynamic where you can sort of either avoid them or be very aggressive. Alright, so this is the elevator section that leads into the worst boss fight. So it's kind of the same thing here where you can, ideally, of course, you get here with more health. But there's going to be more enemy formations here. You take it on here. Left, then right. Where you can generate more food items. Prepare for boss fight by getting as many food items as possible. Starts... Oh, right. This is where... you want to bring a bazooka here with one rocket. That's right. Well, I fucked that up. Because you can spend your last rocket blowing up some Marbens, then dashing into them. Then we can be on the right edge of the screen to take out more waves as they show up. Then we'll get some Carol formations from the right. And the boss will spawn when the last enemies are taken out. Let's see if we can... Yeah, okay. That's why you want to fire that rocket. I wasn't there in time to get these guys, so no help from them. There we go. A lemon. Carol. See, I threw the other Carol, so I didn't get enough damage off her. Okay, one lemon for the boss fight's not great. There he is. Oh, he actually spawned before we got rid of these guys. So this guy's got all the cheap shit that I have with running attacks, super joys, and mega iframes. And like you can't combo them very consistently. Grabbing them is difficult. And then he's gonna do this, and we're gonna have to fight two of them. Okay, sure. Oh my god. He went through a lot of that super joy. They don't have a ton of health, which is good, of course. The mobility, though. Hit. We're gonna try best as we can. Get rid of Captain. This guy doesn't... Yeah, there we go. This fight doesn't end when one of them dies, but when one of them is left, you can do the infinite. Which is an extremely good piece of information to have, because if I didn't know that, I would have probably taken another death on the mummy. Oh yeah, what's my notes here? First note, no healing items in stage 9. Okay, good to know. Starts with a couple of Organos and Carols. Next encounter is a sprinkle of Skips and Wookiees on a mini elevator. Then we'll go up to this red carpet area with high-ranked Wookiees and Skips. Then we're fighting a high-ranked version of Dolg, plus some Wookiees and Skips. Okay, not a ton of specifics here. Shouldn't have, well, whatever. Okay, that was pretty smooth. We have this fake elevator that's not an elevator, but looks like it might be. I have to actually jump to get up there. Very funny, okay. You're just in the box. That's kind of cool. They will spawn eventually, but they'll just... Love this, like the fucking aristocratic fight club. Yeah, this is a little ledge too. I messed up. Could have mashed harder. Ready for that knife. Doing the combos in this game does feel really good. I'm definitely a convert. I wasn't a big fan of this game before, but it turns out knowing how to play it makes it more fun. Gold. Got iframes. That's like a little bit of programming here that I need to get rid of. Maybe with the Super Joys. I mean, I don't know that it was a bad idea to Super Joy there, but in general, like, you don't... In Final Fight, it's like... If you didn't Super Joy, you kind of messed up properly. But in this, in Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, I guess it's like the opposite. Where if you were forced to Super Joy, fucked up, you should have just run away. Okay. Fucking threaded the needle there. But if dog dies, everyone else dies too. Like so. Okay. I need a save here. Okay, let's... There's the final boss. Very good design. I fucked it up. Immediately fucked it up. So I do want to do a little bit of save stating here and try to get a feel for... Oh yeah, see? So now he gets knocked down when you die. But just like Blood, he doesn't get knocked down from regular knockdowns. And because he's airborne, you cannot grab him. He can also fall on the outside of the arena. Like you can walk on this holographic glass space floor or whatever. But you see there, he fell out of the arena. So when you're setting up the loop, like that's the thing also. You can super joy to dodge his projectiles, and you won't take damage unless you connect with it. But it also doesn't really give you an opening to hit him. So if he's gonna fall out of the screen now... Well, I'm too far away to set it up, yeah. But you can see there, when you get that, like, respawn knockdown, that does... It knocks him down. Whether it creates an opening to set up the loop again, you know, it's kind of based on your positioning. But yeah, this fight's pretty fucked. Yeah, see, he was too far away there. I couldn't try to grab him. So the thing about grabbing him is you have to, like, be... Basically, you want to be walking on top of his hurt box on his, like, first frame of being active. So there's like a little bit of a strict timing window. And you have to, you know, you have to get over there. I should have thrown him. See, I knocked him off screen. I'm trying to super joy. You can't buffer it in this game. Oh my god. Because... Oh, shit. Okay. That was kind of interesting. Because he was doing his, like, fucking full-screen meteor attack, he didn't actually get knocked. He was in, like, full invincibility when I respawned. But when I super joyed him out of it... he actually did get knocked down. So that's what, 11 continues? And I probably did like 4 or 5 of those on the final boss. Let's watch the ending. Then I'm gonna do some save states, or load some save states rather. And try to see if I can get the loop going. If for no other reason than to show what it is. Genocide of Wada Wada Talosta. Beat a genocide.
Captain Commando.
I am Captain Commando. Very subdued. Yeah, fun game. Very, very dense. But yeah, the basic encounters are all fun. I'm a fan of this game for sure. I'm a convert. So yeah, like I can identify spots to practice, and just having the save states and breaking down stage by stage, encounter by encounter. I'm pretty happy with how much of the like knowledge that I was able to apply. More of it ended up being like practically useful in a way, like specifically letting me kind of get through an encounter relatively unscathed than I would have expected. Well, I don't really care too much about the score, but okay, let's see here. So I got the start right. I was able to get that initial grab. Stand in front of his hands. When the explosion starts, start walking. Run. Oh, see. That, you know, that's not a terrible start. Okay, here's again. Don't wait quite as long. Oh, I fucked it up. That was perfect. Now it's trickier. Because throwing... The throw is a little slower, so you have like a little less time. But you can see we're already in phase 2. Oh, fuck, I thought he was doing the meteor. I didn't mean to jump. The on-bumper super joys are kind of interesting. Alright, so let's see if we can... There we go. So I just did that with 3 last continues. Honestly, that was kind of easier than I thought. Like I thought it would take. I mean, we didn't get a full. We didn't do it fully, but I was able to loop it a couple of times, enough to make a big difference in the fight. Like the window's not actually super tight. I started running too late there. The thing that makes it a bit tricky is that ideally you want to face the correct way, in the sense that I want to be facing left now. Now it doesn't really matter. But, and I could feel the hesitation there. Now, quarter away. Like I can kind of wiggle to make sure that I'm in a walking state, because you cannot grab while you're running. So the important part is you have to be walking. See, I didn't get the run to come out there. You cannot be running and you cannot be standing still. You have to be walking. I don't know what I was doing there. Sleep at the wheel. To get the grab. But you have to be running to get into position quickly enough to be walking. So you have to kind of switch between walking and running with the right timing. And ideally, you want to be walking in the right direction. Well, the correct direction, I should say. Yeah, I was late there. If you get him like facing right at the right edge here, you can still throw him to the left. I was late, but okay. But you get less time to correct your position. I didn't get the dash out there. Let me see if I can get the full loop. I just complete brain fart, forgot to walk. I was like preoccupied with my positioning. One thing I haven't got a... Yeah, see, I walked too far away there. I was going to say, I don't have a great grasp of how large his hitbox, or hurtbox, I should say, is. Yeah, like how far away from his, like, pelvis, waist, like, sort of center... Okay, started walking too early. Can I be and still get the grab? I'm, like, reacting too quickly. I'm timing it based maybe the second explosion. Yeah, that's better. That was a late dash. You can see there, I was kind of wiggling just to be in a walking state. Early, but not too early. A little late there, but not too late. You can see, like, there's a difference between, if I get it perfectly, I'm like just walking constantly until I get the grab. If I'm early, I'm like walking too far, so I turn it back and wiggle, and it's a little tricky. Welcome, Raider. I was trying to say Raiders, but then it turned into Radon. Welcome. We just did a playthrough of Captain Commando, and I'm setting up some save states for practice, and we're trying to learn the loop on the final boss. You can probably do that, McCall. You can probably like do quick wiggles. However, the window is pretty small, and I don't know specifically, but I imagine that it's a that it's like a meaty situation, that we have to have our grab hitbox out there, and he wakes up into it. And if he doesn't wake up into it, then he, on like the next frame, is flying. I don't know if that's the case, but I assume that's the case. And if I wiggle, whenever my stick is in neutral, because I'm going from left to right, I won't have a grab hitbox out there, presumably, because I'm going to be idle, I would imagine. I don't know if that's, like, I think that's probably the case, which means that it would create a lot of overlap for not having the grab hitbox out there for his one frame. I mean, I can try it, but we'll see. Flying On, I appreciate the request, but I'm going to deny it and refund your points. We're kind of in the middle of things here, and we're probably doing a little bit of a shorter stream here, so I don't want to get too sidetracked. I want to try to find my browser tab here to reject it, because I'll forget it otherwise. There we go. But feel free to make the request again another time. I haven't set up like a shortcut thing to enable and disable that reward for when I want it to be available. So I'll just have to bear with me. Okay, let's try this again. We can try the Mega Wiggle. Didn't work very well, but we can try it again. I would say, I mean, inconclusive, of course. So far, I think I have a equal or lower success rate, but it's like more executionally demanding. So I think I'm gonna stick with my previous strat. Automod caught this somehow. I won't give you the same full speech. I literally just gave Flying on Mike, but I will reject your request. But happily ask you to repeat it some other time. So for those of you joining, this is the final boss. He is extremely cheap, but has an exploit. I wonder if... I know you can fully loop him, but that's like the best we've done. I wonder if you, once you get him to that green life bar, and he goes into that state, that it changes something about his, like, wake up, or if it's just coincidence. Like, his hurt box is pretty... I could tell that I was off there. It's pretty wide. So I have a fair deal of space of, like, walking back and forth on top of him. I wonder... Actually, I didn't really think about it, but I wonder if his wake-up time is actually variable. That could be as well. Obviously, I'm not running with the exact same timing every time. But sometimes it feels like I've got way more time to position myself than others. It doesn't feel like it's the same timing every time. But I guess it's hard to say how much of that is my timing and how much of that is his timing. See there? I was standing around forever. I kind of got into position as he touched the ground. Maybe that's... But yeah, you can see when I'm throwing him, there's no way I can be where I need to be when he touches the ground. But I get there much more like last... Whoa! Okay, that caught me off guard. He jabbed me, but I still got the grab. I'm pretty convinced that it's not a single frame window, at least. Because I think he, like, flies into, as far as, like, his grab hurt box being wide. I think there's a degree of him, like, flying into my grab. But it's obviously a pretty tight window. See, I staggered my walk there. I like second-guessed my timing or positioning. I didn't really look at the health bar, so I'm not sure how far we got. But this is like a really tense and fun thing. It's fun for now, but it's gonna be nerve-wracking at the end of an actual run. Because, I mean, don't forget that by the time we would get here in a run, there's a couple of other hurdles we would have needed to, you know, to overcome. I want to see if I can at least get him to yellow health. You can't throw him into the wall. I'll show you why. Because this happens. You can throw him out of the arena and the loop breaks instantly. So that's why it's a little tricky. Like, you can't set up a... Like, that's why every cycle of the loop requires precision. Yeah, it's actually a kind of an interesting, cool thing. But there is a kind of oversight, you could call it. Because Baby can set it up perfectly. And I want to practice this a little bit more, but then I want to try that. Because I think, if I understand it correctly, I was really late there. I would say, based on my understanding of it, it's quite possible that I could get the Baby loop first try, or at least close to it. Okay, green health. We've gotten to this like yellowish green health before. There we go. Okay, that's still a record. Wonder if... Okay, wow, he takes like 1 pixel. Dude, the Super Joy does like no damage on him. Okay, so that's interesting. The grab is like... Not only is the loop obviously strong, but look at the damage. Like, the grab... Let's see if I can get him to fall a bit more into the screen. I don't have that practice. But yeah, so like, the actual opening to deal damage... You deal like no damage. But whereas with the grab, you deal a lot more damage. Yeah, this boss is pretty fucked. So I'm being pretty sloppy and careless now, but 8 continues was like the kind of PB we got. I'm satisfied enough with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load this save. And at some point in this section, we're going to swap to Baby. So we can arrive at the final boss with Baby. I'll make sure, of course, not to kill Dole too quickly here before we die. I don't think I have to try all that hard. Like, he's probably going to kill me. Might as well, get a little practice in. There we go. Okay. So let's switch.
Commando.
Baby. Of course, I'm not used to using this character at all. Oh, I think he grabbed me. But the point is just to be this character when we arrive at the final boss. Don't really want this rocket, though. Couple rocket. Not dead yet. Okay. Really ugly, but it's kind of perfect because we have like no margin for error here. But let's see if I can set this up correctly. Okay, well that's interesting. I don't know what I did wrong there, honestly. Mistimed that, but... Huh. Holding forward... If I'm jumping forward... Jumping backward. The timing seems different from jumping forward and backward. But the whole point of it, as I understand it, is that you're supposed to be able to loop the back pile driver. So obviously, if I do this, it's going to fall out. So I have to get him there and then do back pile drivers. But that doesn't work. I'm confused. Maybe I can... Maybe there's some way to, like, finesse it. Even a neutral one. I feel like I can... Maybe there's some technique to bouncing forward off of a back pile driver? Or ones... Okay, I'm confused. So it's still, like, when it works, it works in the sense that I can get there without having to dash. That's, like, the big difference. And when I do the forward one, it does seem like that's, like, perfect. I don't know if... Maybe that's the strat. Maybe I can jump back with him. I guess I don't think I saw the loop being like fully performed. Maybe I did and I misremembered it. I thought I saw it being done. I'm like inventing my own variation here. And see, even that didn't... Maybe... Did I? I don't know. Very funny that you can just jump with it multiple times, though. Fuck that up, even. But yeah, because the way I saw it done was like kind of at the edge of the screen, grabbing him and then jumping back to make sure that you're like sort of jumping away from the edge. See, I'm like getting it sometimes. I don't know why I'm getting it sometimes and why I'm not getting it sometimes. Obviously, if his wake-up time is variable, that would explain it. Yeah, I could tell. Like, I was... But I don't know if there's something to the technique of, like, when you're pressing buttons. Yeah. It's very subtle, so it's hard to explain in words. Sometimes I can just feel that I'm like too far away to reach. Interesting. I thought this would be easier. I guess I can dash. The whole point is you're not supposed to have to dash. This kneeing maybe makes a difference, I don't know. It should deal damage. So I dashed over there and I didn't get it, but it's hard to say. That doesn't mean I was like too slow. Because you cannot... I didn't mean to do that. Yes, that works. There's something very mysterious about the timing that makes it, like, inconsistent. I don't understand what it is. Ugh. Ah! Bad timing. Yeah, so... he has no protection. I can grab him like this. But if I don't... then... well, you've seen what the fight looks like. Yeah, the pipe organ's pretty sick. It's a good final boss arena for sure. Yeah, like, it's so hard for me to visually parse whether it's distance being inconsistent or timing being inconsistent. It would make more sense for it to be timing, because the distance, like the physics of the throw shouldn't change. Another thing that's interesting is that Baby's walk speed being slow means that I can spend a longer time overlapping the hitboxes. Despite being slower, I have an easier time getting into the right position than with the other characters. Just because of the timing of the throw. Like, he lands close to my feet, relatively speaking. But dashing, like, works because it still gets me in this spot. But then like, the whole point of not having to dash, supposedly, is that you don't have to worry about the inputs, you just hold forward. But when it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and it's like I can't... if I'm committing to walking... do that. That was early. I can't, like, oh shit, he's waking up fast, I need to dash. Like, if I'm committed to walking, then I'm walking, and it either works or it doesn't. But, and it does seem, it wasn't entirely consistent, but if I'm doing the pile driver forwards, it seems like it more consistently lets me walk. But it wasn't entirely consistent either. See? That was a forward pile driver and I still couldn't catch up. Yeah, that was just me letting go. That's me being slow. Interesting. Like, I thought it was gonna be... Mommy was easier than I expected, and this was harder than I expected. Like, I can sense how it's more forgiving with the... Like, I reckon Baby probably has a wider grab hurt box as well. Or hitbox, I should say. There we go. So not first try, but we did it. It's a very satisfying strat, but I would like to do more research to understand why performing the loop did not... I don't know, I guess the description I had heard of doing it with Baby maybe was just an oversimplification. But it seems... that doesn't seem to match up either, because if you're saying, oh, you can walk... Like, if it's not consistent, if it's not reliable, then it's not... it doesn't work. Then it's not a strat you can rely on and use properly.
Commando.
So, I suspect that there's just something more to the technique of doing it that I misunderstood. Unless there's, like, some difference between the Japan and world versions, which would be bizarre. But it's still doable with the dash. Like, it's still... even taking out of the equation how the dashing adds a degree of execution to it, I think it was still easier with Baby than with Mummy, because the timing window is such that it's easier to get... Like, you just have kind of a larger window, and once you're there, making sure that you are in the middle of walking as he's standing up in you is easier with a character that's wider and slower. It's just like, I guess it's not maybe even a timing thing, it's more like the spacing is easier. I really need to go to the bathroom, so I will do so. And when I return, maybe we'll take a look at a different... I kind of want to like practice this game more, but I think maybe either we'll do that or we'll take a look at a different game. We'll see. But first, a short break. See you guys in a little bit. You know what? I think I might have broken something. Let me let me do that again. Let's make sure we don't break things. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Tell you what. Let's play Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. We'll do just a run of it, just to get a feel for it. And that's probably going to be it for the stream. I need to get some lunch going, and I have some other things going on later today. But we can squeeze this in. Let me update the game info. No. Next version of MAME looking exciting. Sure, there's a specific reason for that. I definitely do not keep up with updates. Like I was saying before, for all I know, this version of MAME could be like 8 years old. I was talking about save states and how like I'm not used to using save states in MAME because in my mind, MAME save states are like broken and unreliable. And I base that on the fact that that used to be the case 25 years ago, 30 years ago when I first started using MAME. When I first started using MAME, it didn't have save states at all. But when they first implemented, they were just like they just didn't work. Everything would break when you try to use them. So I'm like apprehensive about save states in MAME, even though they probably have not been broken for decades. Let's. Interesting. I heard. I guess that's like in PCSX2. That's like the recent emulator development that I heard about that excited me. There was like a branch of PCSX2 focusing on the Namco PS2 arcade hardware that runs Cobra, among other things. I would assume that it's also Time Crisis, maybe 3, 4, and whatever else. I don't like. I'm not super knowledgeable in general about arcade games from that like era. Like arcade games that weren't, fighting games or things that got ports in like, early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. I just like it's a little bit of a blind spot. So I don't know what it is, but like the Cobra game is enough to excite me, obviously. But Crisis Zone, like I'm assuming from what you're describing, it sounds like that's at least that game. I guess it's roughly in that same time frame. But that's cool. I don't know much about. Like that sounds like a legitimate reason to be excited, even if I don't personally know those games very well. I don't know. I feel like I wanted. I don't know if it does a difference. I guess it makes a difference. I was going to say doing like setting it to 2-player cabinet, so the UI is a little less messed up, but that's fine. For this run, I'm not going to bother with like setting up save states or anything like that. We're just going to go for it. All I know about this game is that this move is absurdly good. Well, all I know about playing this game, I should say. Another thing I know about the game is that the music fucking owns. Let me turn it down a bit. Probably better. Listening to these like short sections. I guess I know that this game is also longer than Captain Commando. Dude, these little title cards for each room pretty sick. I'm so used to not using the combo throw that I forget that it's a thing. Like, even the Bilbos are not very threatening in this game, as I understand it. That was an armor, okay. I mean, not much is when you've got this move, but... you can, like, jab to defend against them in a way that you don't necessarily can rely on in Final Fight or other games with similar enemies. And look at that, a whole steak dinner and burger. Let's grab this. Good! Music in this game is awesome. Yeah, the fact that he like really flies across the screen means that he's like kind of gets out of the way too. Outrange the boss, sure. We can do that. Whoa, that's quick. I didn't mean to put that up, but that's fine. Oh yeah, running is a little different here because you keep running when you let go of the stick. So stopping the run is a little bit different. Just trying to super joy there. Might have been a bad idea, but... Ah! My run didn't come out. So I actually took a death there. That's interesting. I got the first stage deathless in Captain Commando. And that guy's jumping a lot. That's pretty funny. The grenade didn't kill him. Already doing not great here. I got to the boss without taking a hit, but... that was quite a lot going on for the first boss, though. Like, for a first boss. Alright, let's go to the northern forest. Big-ass heal right off the bat. One thing I kind of hate about this game is the life bar updates really strangely. There's like a massive delay between dealing damage to an enemy and that damage being registered on the life bar. I don't understand what's up with that. Got magazines to refill ammo. Up the Hysteric Moon. I played this a decent amount in the past when I was like button mash credit feeding arcade games. But I've never like properly played it or tried to learn it. On the swamp. So yeah, in that previous section, I was just kind of guarding the T-Rex because the enemies will walk up to him and attack the T-Rex, which will wake him up and make him go in the fight, which you kind of want to avoid. Yeah, it's kind of funny how it's like the opposite where Captain Commando has like the limited dash. Oh, okay, that reaches like full screen. Right, okay, I remember. Okay, so I was running to the left and I pressed down, and that actually does stop you. You can roll from a lateral, like left or right, to diagonal to up or down. But if you tap up or down while you're running left or right, you will stop. Oh, that was a well-timed stake. But yeah, this game in general is like kind of tilted in the player's favor because you have these like very open arenas and you have like amazing mobility. Interesting. If you run up or down, it seems like letting go of the stick stops you. So I have no idea about any like boss strategies or anything in this game. Or like any strategies for anything for that matter. I just know that the running attack is really good. And Mustafa's running attack in particular has like absurd range and speed. So he's like the easy character. Pretty funny, these guys sound like fucking dangerous when they die. Oh. I don't know what that... There was a beeping noise. I guess the timer showed up, but there was like 3 minutes left. The beep was probably just to remind me that there is a timer, not that... Okay, trying to turn around is a bit tricky there. Not the time was like running out or anything. It's a little unusual that I like when you continue, you sock him. It's a little funny that he reacts before he gets hit, but it's so cool. Oh yeah, you get the bazooka. This one's not bad damage. My frame. Whoa. Okay, he's in his like later phase here, I guess. Cool. I should not have picked that up. I don't know how to use this. I don't know how I didn't die there. That's okay. Yeah, this is a licensed game. It's based on a comic called Xenozoic Tales, which had a Mega CD game as well. A swamp forest. Oh yeah, so this is kind of Jikoku no Road, Hell Road. Somewhat similar to the water, surf, whatever stage in Captain Commando, but not quite. I guess I have some sort of fucking dive kick. I didn't mean to do that. So we call the car. Now it turns into kind of a bonus stage. But so the entire stage like exists as a stage due to traverse on foot. I want to say that once you're in the car, you can like lose the car by getting hit by something. I forget how this works exactly. Oh yeah, right. You fight this guy, sort of. But he can actually damage the car. For being like a funky little vehicle section and beat 'em up, this is actually surprisingly decent. Like it's still a real stage. I mean, it's a bit. I'm sure for people who know this game, who consider this a game with a lot of filler, I'm sure this is a filler section. But it's not full on bonus stage. I guess that's just his normal jump kick. Okay, I accidentally did a neutral kick there. I didn't hit. I was just used to doing his running jump kick. Which looks like that. I mean, I guess we didn't take a death or anything, so that was sort of kind of filler, relatively. But it mixes things up a little bit, at least. Slice. Like this little narrative issue. These little cinematic bits that last like 2 seconds, keeping the pace up, of course. Alright, that's a different type of barrel, I see. But yeah, this is kind of what a lot of encounters are, because the enemies that don't have like full screen attacks or can leap around the screen like you can are just not really built to deal with your offense. Okay. Oh, that's kind of weird. When you get an extend, you do a little celebratory animation. Trying to use that to damage it on this guy, but hold that. Yeah, that screen is funny to me. It makes me think of Rick Dangerous. The effect of enemies like slamming into a wall like that looks so sick. It's kind of the same in Captain Commando. Love the music in this game. like hitting a bunch of times with the one dash kick as well. I don't know the like strategy or positioning for it, but I do know that again, this game does have a bunch of these like corner safe spot type strats. End of the section? Yeah. Factory. So we're about to fight Slice! If this had been Final Fight, that would have been really dangerous and I would have gotten exploded. But because the screen is like wider and the characters are smaller, even the enemies are dashing onto the screen. If I'm centered like this, like that gives me time to react. And when I can react with something really powerful, then it kind of changes the balance of the equation. Okay. I know that this guy is a bit of an asshole. Not so much in this encounter, I guess, relatively speaking. We'll meet again. But without knowing what I'm doing, this fight will be bad enough, I'm sure. Again, he's got mobility, and he's got range. Not just with his boomerang throws, but just his melee attacks are really quick and far-reaching. Also, the fucking after images makes it so hard to see what's going on, even. Okay, I thought that knife would hit him. Turns out the jump kick was really good. Yeah, that attack. Fuck. I was hoping I wouldn't take that death because now I basically need... Yeah. He took damage when I respawned. He wasn't at that low a health, but he was still at low enough health that a proper drop kick that would have made multiple hits would have killed him. Jack's garage. So this is what, stage 5? Yeah. Love this song. Yeah, so you don't want to... The green dinosaurs are peaceful, but if provoked, they can turn into red dinosaurs. And red dinosaurs will attack, but if you attack red dinosaurs, they become green dinosaurs again. Okay, you just leave. Oh, there we go. We hadn't fully triggered. Yeah, so these guys will try to attack T-Rex. I guess can be useful in the sense that these guys will just sort of magnetize towards this spot. Hoping I could get the throw combo out there in time. I fucked it up. It's actually a pretty cool mechanic, though. Like enemies having kind of an objective other than hurting you, and it's sort of changing the dynamics of the fight. I don't know if I can just leave, but punch this angry dinosaur to calm him down a little bit. Oh yeah, I want to say this section has a bunch of these like safe corners and stuff. I mean, if you know how to make use of them, obviously. I certainly do not. I always thought it was like weirdly gruesome to be able to explode enemies in this game. And they turn into these tiny little chunks. This guy, this is probably not a great spot because I'm still... That can be attacked from the front. Yeah, well, maybe it's better now. See, it's kind of similar to the Mardia situation in that part. Where I'm safe, but they wouldn't attack me. Okay. Look too soon. Oh yeah, so, okay. This is kind of the perfect storm here, I think. They can't attack me from behind here. There's just enough space for them to try to attack me from the front. Oh, interesting. Okay. So I'm probably, I mean, I could very well just not be in a properly correct position. Actually execute the strat properly. I can, yeah, I inch up like one on an extra pixel. Now I'm fully in the corner. But leading up to, until they just started standing there, you know, it was a lot more effective. Oh, that guy just left. I see. Good. That's good. That's good. Oh, lobster. Nom, 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 nom. Alright, makes sense that the ammo's kept on screen so we can actually make use of it. Of course, mega range on that grab combo. I mean, this jab is pretty damn powerful. Oh yeah, I lost the Uzi. Oh, whatever. A little inconvenienced by the narrow space here, but since we don't have to actually fight anyone, it doesn't really make any difference. That up. I didn't mean to grab. Ah. Run. I'll skip that torch. Only one continue, mind you. Oh yeah, it's this guy, the Brainiac. Enemy names are a bit weird. Of course, there are some of them at least different in the Japanese version. I got there. The slow motion effect when you die is kind of interesting, but it's also weird that it's doesn't seem to apply to everything. Damage that. Kind of combo grab, but yeah, like this cake is just insane. Bro was not necessarily ideal there, but I just wanted the iframes. Okay, is that it? Oh, the guy just spawned, or does he turn into a monster here? I forget. Looks like he's going to turn into something or other. Yeah, there we go. Org. That's what I heard vaguely. I was trying to punch the purple guy to get the combo throw, but I couldn't quite reach him. These guys are a little tricky because they keep jumping. I mean, so obviously you can't combo or grab them. Or combo grab. Friends, of course the boss didn't even hit me. He's got a lot of health left, actually. Ah! See, the guy died before I could get the throw. They're gonna pay for this. Whenever I see that, now I just think the fucking kings do not fall. Rid of this. Oh, that was stupid, just standing there. And you're, like... The Axis hitboxes are, I feel like, smaller than I expect them to be. That was not super clean, but... For having no strats and no prep, I'm still, still doing better than I would have expected. Stage 6? You're not getting to stage 6 with 2 continues in Final Fight without practice, let me tell you that. We need to do that, but... Oh, that was pretty satisfying. Oh, what am I doing? That was just me setting myself up to stand in the worst possible spot on screen. But I mean, I can even see now, playing it without really any prep or knowledge, why you would, with even just a bit of practice, why you would consider some of this stuff filler. Because that's like an encounter with like 2 or 3 enemies at a time at most, and it's all like the most basic enemies who can't properly deal with your dash attacks, and even just running around, honestly. Even walking, I can like navigate around those guys. And we got golden axe strats. And every time the timer shows up and starts chiming, I think it's like a go indicator. I noticed the sound before I noticed the visual. Run! Couldn't get the run to come out. I wonder if this guy has iframes. So this was the first boss, right? But he's essentially a regular enemy at this point. Let's find out. Oh, okay. We can just back on his wake up. Got some funky jams. And we'll... So the knife guys can at least, like, throw their knives at range, pose a threat, without having to arduously walk up next to you. But the throw knives are pretty slow as far as those things go. It's so funny, he's just like waiting this foot down. I mean, it's pretty cool though. I mean, I like how they actually incorporated the dinosaurs. Like, not just as window dressing, but they actually show up in different ways that are honestly kind of fun and interesting. If you think about it, it's pretty impressive, I think, all things considered, that they're... I mean, there may yet be, I haven't finished the game yet, but so far there haven't been sections where there's like a herd of running... Oh my god, I walked into the recovery frames of the dinosaur foot. There's like not a herd of stampeding dinosaurs that you just have to like run out of the way of, like in Cosmic Invasion or Turtles in Time. Look how happy that dinosaur is. Funny that these guys have rifles, which you would think would make them a long-range threat, but not really. But again, these guys have good mobility with the jumping and speed and everything. I want to say that they can hit you with their tongue or something. They have like a long-range attack. But it's really the jumping that does the most to make characters kind of tricky to deal with. Because enemies are inherently less vulnerable when they are in the air. Because you do not have any abilities to deal extended damage to airborne enemies. There are no juggles. So by definition, anyone who's on the ground is more vulnerable, right? Because you can grab them, you can combo them, you can combo grab. Like, you don't have anything in your arsenal that is less effective on grounded opponents. Like, either something doesn't at all work if they're in the air, or if it's just more effective. Like, you can land a jab like that, but it doesn't lead into anything. It's just one straight hit if they're airborne. But if they're grounded, you know, you can get whatever. Combo that or grab. Oh shit! I didn't realize he was he was low on health. Okay, cool. Well, that went surprisingly well. All right, okay, we're not done. Well, that would explain, I guess. Okay, there we go. That makes more sense. I was like, that seemed way too easy. So with bosses in particular, it's like kind of rough if they're jumpy, because typically they have like iframes on wake up, so knocking them down is like kind of bad. Oh my god! Oh, the stab I thought would be a throw. So when you're close, you're gonna pay for this. You stab with the knife, but if you're further away, you throw it. And not only is there obviously a range difference, but there's a speed difference. Throwing a knife is much faster than stabbing with it. I would expect another phase. Have a cuppa, a little bit of gum. Guy just walks in. And he's so lucky. I try to run. So you can see there that like the stab is really slow. When you throw the knife, it just like goes flying instantly. Okay, I was standing too close on his wake up. But the stab. Dude, that fucking dodge. Accidental master stroke. I'm trying to dash! Right. Oh my god. I failed to run like 3 times in a row. Throws. Frames. Obviously, it doesn't really help deal with whatever he might be doing. But the dropkick also just putting this active hurt box on screen for like 2.5 seconds means that it's like, even if you miss time, a wake up or something, like you do it too early, you can still just have the active hitbox be out there as opponents or wake up into it or whatever. Obviously, if a boss wakes up and does an invincible attack, it'll hit you out of it, but it's really good. Code 7 to the underground. Aw, no knocking them over the edge, huh? It's interesting because there's clearly these kind of low stakes fights here, right? You're fighting pretty small crowds of like essentially low level thugs. And this kind of area is like almost like designed to be to my benefit. I don't know, like horizontal space, something I have quite good control over with this kick. So that's kind of interesting. Well, now we're in a bit of a different space here. Pretty funny. Hit him through the wall. So, and frankly, like from a design point of view, I'm kind of two minds about it. Because when you're... Okay, so you can get down... Let me just... Okay. It's kind of like in the Punisher, except you have even more control in that game. But, up combo throws forward, and down combo throws backward. That's actually extremely good to know. In Final Fight, up or down both throws backward. There's no forwards combo throw. In the Punisher, up and down do two different throws. One is forward and one is backward. However, regardless of which one you do, after you initiate a forward throw, you can redirect it and throw backwards or vice versa. So you have like tremendous control. Yeah, see, the active hitbox and the dropkick just completely nullifies the thrown knife there. Best song in the game coming up? Anyway, once you're like at the point of trying to go for a 1cc and like mastery of the game, I can see why you would be unenthused about these, you know, filler bits of the game, because they, you know, inherently are going to be less exciting. The timing of that dynamite. Like if there's no challenge, it just kind of ends up being busy work, and it's just travel distance and yeah, I mean filler, right? But having said that, like I think there is, I can understand why. Interesting, like because that guy was spawning, I couldn't throw the knife because he was too close on like the X-axis, even though he was off screen. Like as far as pacing goes, it's nice to have some variation in intensity. I don't mind having, like on paper at least, I feel like I don't mind having a bit of downtime, or not downtime, but like you do something really intense, and it's nice to have a relaxing little section where, like, as a reward, you get to beat up some guys without fearing for your life. But I can see that this game maybe, like, especially for an arcade game, maybe it errs on the side of trying to dash. Okay. Of too many or too long or too slow sections like that. I'm sort of speculating, but trying to get those barrels, but his dropkick was too high. Oh. Yeah, there's the tongue attack. I was hoping I was hitting someone. It's very, like, kind of reprogramming my techniques here, because the throw combo doesn't exist in Captain Commando. So the way you do crowd control and try to corral enemies is pretty different. I keep, I guess, accidentally holding diagonals, so I don't get the... Bro, you have to be in a proper cardinal direction to get the combo throws. Yeah, by that kind of... Like, I wouldn't say I'm at a point, like, where the quote-unquote filler sections bore me, you know? The game's like, because I don't know the fights, they're still challenging, or at least I can get tripped up by them. But this is the thing too, like, you have these quote-unquote filler sections, and then you get your food refills. Can I throw this? But you can't do this. Yeah, you can drop weapons with a super joint. Which means that, like, if you make mistakes or you screw up a section, if there's food, you get your situation gets kind of reset, right? Which means that that section, like, not only does it lose the tension of the challenge potentially being too low, armor actually being a factor, but if there's no consequence for doing poorly at it, because you're now put in a worse situation for the following encounter, then it has, like, even less weight. And that's when I think it really starts becoming filler. When it's, like, even if you screw up, like, you recover, and then from that, it's like, well, it didn't matter. Like, that section didn't matter. So again, like, I'm not at that point. Yeah, this is, like, this game's most infamous boss fight. I have no idea how to do it, but we're gonna try to throw out some drop kicks and use throws for iframes whenever we get the opportunity. Yeah, that fucking half-screen boomerang slice is pretty gnarly. Boomerang throw got off pretty quickly. Throw. At health. They're so fast too. Come on. Oh. Yeah, they can very easily walk out of your range and essentially whiff punish you. So, doing the dropkick, like, because it has such range, I don't want to do it, and because they're so fast too, in this fight in particular, you kind of want to do it much earlier than, well, I shouldn't say than you think, but than I think. Put out this, like, lingering. We'll have to deal with this guy. Like, your run does, like, literally at full screen. That's so fucking funny. I mean, it's cool, but, like, he was essentially off screen to the left. I was on the right edge, and I was trying to run and kick towards him. I screwed up a double tap input, and before I could try it again, he was in range to hit me. Like, that's kind of crazy. That was still, like, as far as my memory of this fight being ludicrous, that was honestly not as bad as I remembered it. The basement. That's one word for this. Deep down. But I guess I'm also like, whenever I would have played this sort of casually in the past, I'm sure I would have not have the awareness to use the running as much as, I mean, not like I'm using it masterfully at this point. But walking up to enemies and punching them is not really like my main offense. Interesting, you can't really fight these guys like that. I guess it's also worth mentioning that because Mustafa's running kick is so wide, you can also kind of hit further off screen than most other attacks, I reckon. I suppose could make a difference. Figured. Dude, those guys, like, they barely do anything. They kind of remind me, oh my god, of the military guys in DD Crew, who also have, like, submachine guns. But they literally do not have the ability to fire them. They just walk up to you and kick. That guy's not a boss, so he probably doesn't have wake-up iframes. That's right, you gotta... You can't let go of the stick to stop running in this game. That's the mistake I made right there. Lack of Cadillacs and/or dinosaurs. There's, you know, there's at least one Cadillac in the game. And, quite a few dinosaurs throughout. Love this fast-forward effect, or, like, ability Capcom beat-em-ups. You just, like, hold any button during a little cutscene, and it just plays at, like, double speed. Oh, I guess the flames don't even reach down here. But yeah, it's an interesting contrast in kind of encounter design philosophy. Obviously, Captain Commando has plenty of fights where you fight Wookiees and Sonys, whatever they're called, the knife guys in that game. But it's a very, like, you can feel it, the design philosophy difference in like level design. Like where the sections are so short and there's like one, maybe two encounters. Like it really feels like separate encounters. Here it's like you gradually, and I think this is like more standard, I guess you could say, with like enemies come at you in these like staggered formations as you progress. The screen doesn't necessarily stop with every enemy or even every enemy wave. You see here, like, enemies sort of spawn staggeredly. I mean, it's not that they all spawn simultaneously in Captain Commando, but it's a lot easier, even, like, you wouldn't necessarily do it, like, the first time you play. Okay, no, they can't. Well, maybe it's because I jumped, I guess. Yeah, because you can run underneath them. Like, you can tell where an encounter starts and ends in that game. Here, like in Final Fight, and again, honestly, most beat-em-ups, it's a bit more fuzzy. And I think that's kind of exacerbated, or further emphasized, maybe we can say, if you want to be more neutral, by the fact that many of these encounters do mostly feature these enemy types that aren't too big of a threat. So you don't, like... I don't know, I feel like Captain Commando is almost like Spider-Man in that sense, where the stages are literally, like... A long section in Captain Commando is like 3 screens long. Otherwise, it's like 1 to 2 screens. Like this length of cave that we're traversing here, like that barely exists in Captain Commando. But it's, you know, doesn't seem out of the ordinary here. And this isn't even a game that's like an actual slog, right? This isn't like a 3-hour game or even a 90-minute game. But Captain Commando is like so tightly trimmed. I actually did not mean to run there. That it provides an interesting comparison, both in terms of the pace of how the game feels, but also like the geography. Like, I think what I like the most about it isn't even strictly the gameplay density, because this is still, at least on my level, like, you're not fully disengaged or anything. It's not like the fucking Asterix game with like lengthy, boring dialogue interrupting the game constantly. It's just that the intensity. Like this, I'm sure would count as like a real fight. But there's quite a few of these fights where you fight a relatively small number of the weakest enemies who do not really pose a threat even in a group. And there's not too much of that, I think, in Captain Commando by comparison. But I think the biggest difference, more specifically, that I appreciate at least, is that feeling of the discrete sort of encounters. Like, it makes it easier for me to mentally kind of compartmentalize the different sections of the game into discrete chunks. At some points. And as you may be aware, you know, one thing I tend to harp on pretty... It's hard to turn around. I'm sitting in this like very relaxed posture, so my inputs are all up here. Having memorable moments and kind of set pieces, and it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but here, for example, we walked through this cave, we had the slope with the barrels, but throughout the rest of this, there was the one encounter with those boss characters, but that was pretty much it. There were these like parts before and after that where nothing really happened. It wasn't particularly memorable. And I feel like Captain Commando, because it's so, you know, the way it's paced, the way it's structured with these encounters, it doesn't have any unmemorable parts, kind of. Because even sections that don't amount to much, it's like a change of scenery. You're in a new location and you go, oh, what's this? Oh, this character walked away. I punched one guy, boom, on to the next section. And that in itself, of course, the novelty of it being so brief can become memorable. But at the very least, there's like something... There's like the circus entrance, there's crates, you break them, one guy goes into the tent, one guy... Oh my god. One guy fights you, and then that's like... Okay, cool, that was that. But here you have something like this cave... Whoa. Where there's like sections of cave that are indistinguishable from one another. And that's the element that's kind of not present in Captain Commando, because no sections go on long enough for that to happen. And combined with that, like, you have the... Oh, you can't throw them, sick. The encounters themselves, the sort of start and end of them feeling a bit more... Like, there's less of that... I think they strike the balance right. Because on the one hand, it doesn't feel like Devil May Cry, and you enter this combat arena for the dash, and you have this like stop, start cadence between when you're fighting and when you're walking to the next fight. Because I'm not a big fan of that. But I think Captain Commando finds that balance where it doesn't feel like you're swapping between fighting and walking between fights. But it also doesn't have parts that feel like just, you know, busy work traversal. It's interesting. This is probably not a good idea. Yeah. Ah! I could wiggle free, but I couldn't visually identify in time that I was free. Like, I mean, you can see, like, of course I took a couple of deaths here, but for the most part, this kick is just, like, stupidly effective, even against the final boss. Well, I'm guessing final boss. Very cool boss design. I mean, like, the visual character design. Yeah, there's like this whole escape thing. Is that interactive in this game, or is it just a cutscene? I forget. I want to say that you're still in control, but I could be misremembering. All this guts. Oh, I'm so sweaty and uncomfortable. I think it's just the ending. It's like one of them falls behind and then he comes in the car or whatever. Spoiler alert. Jack, oh no. Yeah, and Mess, who is like, if I recall, he's in like one panel of the comic or whatever. Like, it's... A lot of this game is kind of invented by Capcom, which is fine. It's kind of how it should be, I think. I say that as unfamiliar with the source material, but it is a cool game. I feel like it's still not my favorite. But it is a very good feeling game. It's a nice looking game. Amazing music. I can't believe this dude spoiled the ending of Cadillacs Dinosaurs. Yeah, during the ending. Okay, image. Yeah, like obviously a lot of these illustrations are kind of traced from the comic, but they don't have that like Capcom style to them. It's something they did more in the early, like, it's the same thing in the Punisher and the early fighting games. X-Men and Marvel Superheroes uses a bunch of traced, like, comic art. And then in, like, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, they like, fuck it, they just abandoned that and did their own artwork. And it's like, whoop, like, the quality just increased, looks so much better. Like, it's not that this art's bad, but obviously they're not making an effort to make the in-game graphics look like the comics. So there's this like kind of mismatch, as well as like the design sensibilities of like how, I mean, look at the portrait of like Mess, not this one, but when we saw him close up, where he looks like this bony ape of some kind. Like, it's just, I'm sure that's like based on the comic, but it's just like compared to the aesthetic quality of character design that you would know the Capcom artist to be capable of, it's a pretty wide gulf, I feel like. And yeah, like I've seen bits and pieces. Like, you can look at this and like, I think as far as like stylistically it looking appealing or not, I think a lot of it has to do with how it's translated to pixel art, like the coloring and the dithering and like just the pixel art technique applied in the translation. Because the style of the illustration and character design in this, like it has like the poster art and everything, like it has this very vintage retro style to it, which I think comes across much more easily in these like black and white or like heavy ink illustrations. And I think that's a style you need to lean into it in a very specific way to make it work in pixel art. Like Capcom here, I think, applied their sort of house style, and I'm not talking about like the illustrations of Akiman or Bengus or whoever, but just like the way they would do pixel art. Um, and as a result, like I feel like it doesn't, um, you don't get the full benefit of the stylistic approach of either of them. Like you don't get the best Capcom pixel art when they're bound to sort of painting within the lines of comic illustration, and the Capcom pixel art technique for as um, sophisticated and high quality as it is, it's not the best vessel for like that comic ink illustration. So like could you have translated the Marvel comic illustrations used for the portraits and the whatever in Marvel superheroes more like uh aesthetically pleasing? Like could you have done it better, I guess, than they did in those Capcom games? I mean, sure. But it's not really that because well, I was going to say because it's not really that they look bad, they just don't match everything else and they don't look as good as everything else. And I think that is true, but I also do think that the some of the like the character portraits in Children of the Atom, even more so than this, like has this weird like it kind of feels like they're weirdly scaled. Like not that there's like pixel artifacts, but it just kind of they took a cool illustration, they redrew it, but they didn't necessarily like the illustration would not have been designed with any kind of pixel art limitations in mind, obviously. So some of them look kind of weird, but especially in Children of the Atom, you have these like the tiny character portraits in the HUD during gameplay that are kind of mangled and don't look great. Um, and yeah, just overall, like Capcom just has that kind of quality to their art where whenever they adapt something, the more of their artistic sensibilities they bring to the thing they're adapting, the better it looks. Um, I guess you could argue that like some of the Disney stuff that they did, um, some people might prefer other interpretations that are more quote unquote faithful. Um, but you can think of something like the Magical Adventure, Magical Quest series, which is like you could quite easily replace Mickey and Donald with some original character, and it would just be like a quality Capcom game, like in terms of the visuals and everything. And that's a cool, like, Capcomized version of those worlds and those characters. But if someone said that they prefer the look and feel of um, whatever that, I forget who made it, but there's like that Super Famicom Donald Duck game. I guess there's more than one. But there's like other Disney platformers that are more pure in like trying to mimic the style. Or, I mean, even something like Lion King or whatever. And I think that, you know, it's a fair argument to say that I prefer the stuff that looks more purely like the source material, or even something like you know, the classic Mega Drive versus Super Nintendo Aladdin discussion. But for the most part, I think, I mean, Marvel's a great example because there's obviously no shortage of phenomenal Marvel comic artwork. Like a lot of the classic Marvel stuff was made by like art gods in their own right. But having said that, like the X-Men hasn't, like they have never looked cooler than in that one key art illustration for Children of the Atom by Akiman. Like those characters have never in their entire existence looked cooler than in that one painting. Um, and I think for most people, most of the characters, at least personally, there are a few exceptions, but for most of those Marvel characters, like that Marvel vs. Capcom series depiction of those characters is like the canonic, like iconic, fucking platonic ideal of those characters. And I think that's a cool quality. And I guess it's like I mean AVP I think is another good example, I guess, where um the kind of Capcomized aesthetics of all the characters, whether it's Dutch or the like original characters like Lynn, or just the way they drew aliens and predators, like they just look fucking awesome. So it's nice to see them like lean into it. But anyway, I digress. This game is fun. I'm curious to do more research on it. Um, but I can see with how little more um, data collection and research, there's probably not that many super difficult spots in this game. I don't know. I'm sure there's some cheese strats for some of the bosses that trivialize some of it. Um, but yeah, like I cleared this on 9 credits. 8 continues with no practice or research, which I think is pretty. I mean, that's fewer than Captain Commando. So maybe this is easier, but Captain Commando seems like a more interesting game to learn and practice. But we'll see. I feel pretty confident in saying that I would do both of these games before Tenchu Kudout 2, just on account of it being longer and probably more like Captain Commando feeling more interesting than this on account of its sort of density and brevity. I feel like Tenchu Kudout is like following after this on that scale. Um, but I still, definitely want to return to Denjin Makai, if for no other reason, just play it more and see more of the characters. So I'm not sure if the next step from here is returning to Captain Commando for doing more practice and like start working on the 1cc, or if I want to do more exploration of trying more games to see. Captain Commando has such a head start in that I have a good resource to like work from learning it. And also after today realizing that, oh, I do actually like it. It's actually fun to play. It's unlikely that I'm going to come across something that's going to make me want to set that aside to learn it first. Um, but I also do like playing beat 'em ups, so I might just want to play more games for the sake of that. Yeah, Children of the Atom is still on that like 1994 difficulty for sure. Um, you'll get destroyed by the computer in that game. But yeah, I need to go make some lunch. Then I'm gonna do some stuff later today. This was still a slightly longer short stream than I expected, but we covered very good ground. I had a delightful time. So I'm happy. Let me close this down. Let me take a look at who might be streaming, such that we might raid them. And see here. Looks like Mike is continuing his journey through the Ultima series. I'm judging this thumbnail correctly. So let's go cheer him on in that endeavor. Why don't we? Thank you very much for hanging out once again. I'll be back at some point. Maybe during the weekend. Maybe not. Who knows? But yeah, I'm fully into beat 'em ups currently. So I am sure whatever game we end up playing next will be of the walking right and punching dudes variety. So if you're into that, look forward to whatever form that'll take. And I'll see you next, I guess. Have a good one. Goodbye.